Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the budget report outs, and I will turn it over to Chairperson Wassinger from the General Government Budget, and I believe she is starting with the Kansas Lottery. Chairperson Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Kansas Lottery for this year, their actual 2024 was almost $500 million. The House for 2025 authorized almost the same, $5 million less, $494,831,907 or anyway. And the agency requested a revised estimate of $495 million, all from special revenue funds, and 91 FTEs in 2025. That's an increase of $14.8 million, or 3.1%, above the amount we approved in the 2024 and a legislature, and a decrease of 4 FTEs. The primary reasons are due to the expansion of planned player loyalty programs to include electronic sale of tickets at $3.7 million, and the amount of revenue retained by lottery gaming facility managers to be in line with the fall 2024 revenue estimates. The LBC concurs with the agency revised estimate in 2025 with the following adjustments: deleting 165 million or thousand from the lottery operating fund to not increase the salaries of certain employees who have taken on additional duties related to the expansion of the player loyalty program. The Budget Committee concurs with the LBC's recommendation in FY25. Are there any questions?
Committee, are there any questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when we look at 24 compared to 25, we actually see about a $2 million increase in salaries and wages, but we lost 4 FTEs. So, I mean, I know that we gave pay increases, but that is significant. So I just wanted to know what that's attributable to.
I'm not
Chairperson
sure.
Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure what that's attributed to. However, all changes that they've made is with that Kansas plan.
I think most of it is the 5% increase.
The Kansas plan? What plan?
The Play-On program.
Oh, Play-On, okay.
And it is due to the 5% pay increase.
Representative Williams.
Okay, I'll just do the math on that because I don't know if that's a 5%, but that's $2 million. That's more than 5%.
That was between benefits and salaries, apparently.
Representative Williams. I do have a question in regards to the governor's differences from the LBC recommendation. So they're showing they're deleting $651,000 for shrinkage to implement the 7.5% shrinkage rate. Was that discussed by the committee?
Well, we didn't get this until today, so we did not discuss this, but because it's a fee-based fund, they're bringing the money in. I'm not sure that they need that big of a cut in terms of what they're doing.
Well, I was going to say, in regards to the deletion of, well, $651,000 in 25 and $658,000 in 26, when we go through the budget for fiscal year 2026, if somebody doesn't, I'll probably make a motion to accept the governor's differences in the deletion of those amounts for the shrinkage amount.
Okay.
Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so when I do the math, though, just so we're clear on this, the salary and wages increased 28%. So even if you had a 5% pay increase and then you had other fringe benefits, that's a pretty substantial increase for losing 4 FTEs, just FYI.
Okay. KLRD is trying to check on that.
Representative Helgerson. Any further discussion in regards to fiscal year 2025? All right, seeing none, Chairperson Wassinger, you may go on to 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wrong page. Pardon me. (2026), the agency requested 497, 148, 675 million, and the LBC gave them 496 plus million. The LBC concurred with the agency's revised estimate with the following adjustments, and they deleted 334,933 all from lottery operating fund, not to increase salaries of certain employees who have taken on additional duties related to the expansion of the player loyalty program. The Budget Committee concurs with the LBC's recommendation for 2026. Are there any questions?
I have a question in regards to when, the sports wagering. Was there any discussion in committee on how many outside facilities have signed up in regards to sports wagering? And when I say that, there was some language in the law that when it passed a couple years ago that restaurants, bars could sign with the casino managers and participate in the sports wagering somewhat. And I was just wondering if there's, how many of those actually have signed up in that?
Is that it's still only the gaming facility apps, like,
Actually, I want to know how many.
I can double check really quick.
Not the apps, how many people are using it? How many facilities? KLRD is looking into that.
Okay, because I know, I think of the anticipation that there'd be quite a few that might have signed up, and I don't think that's been the expectation. I mean, I think it's been very minimal as far as who's been signed up. And I think from those that I've discussed with on who have signed up, it's not been very advantageous to them after they have signed up with the casinos. Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On, this was in 25 also, but I noticed it was in 26. So it looks like that they cut 4 FTEs right under the enhancement request where it says other changes. There was 4 FTEs, but then it did not follow over. We didn't cut it over in our legislative budget committee. So do you know why that was?
Chairperson Walsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The legislative budget committee also deleted the.
Well, the Legislative Budget Committee has deleted those 4 employees and taken the money for that.
Well, but it's not showing up that way.
What page are you looking at? I'm sorry.
Page 6. See where in the budget analysis, it shows 4 FTEs.
Just an error on the part of it. That's just an editing error. It's just an
Chairperson
Apparently,
Walsinger.
that was an editing error. It should be 91.
Okay, so it should be 91 on both
Yes.
95, or 2025 and 26?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions in regards to fiscal year 2026? As I mentioned before, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion since this was handed to, this was not part of the General Government Budget Committee when they had the discussion in regards to the Kansas Lottery, to accept the governor's differences from the Legislative Budget Committee recommendation in regards to fiscal year 25 and also in 26 in regards to the deletion of $651,000 for shrinkage in 25 and $658,000 in shrinkage in 2026. So that is my motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Chairperson Wassinger. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will move on my motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're back on the budget. Any further discussion in regards to the Kansas Lottery? Seeing none, Chairperson Wassinger, I'd entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee recommendations for the Kansas Lottery budget for fiscal years 2025 and 2026 as amended.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Getz. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Chairperson Wassinger, Racing and Gaming Commission.
Yay, and my favorite thing, gambling. I'm just amazed that I get these budgets. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency recommendation for the Kansas Racing and Gaming Association is 12 million, almost, yeah, 12.4 million dollars. They've increased FTEs. The LBC concurred with the agency request of the $12.4 million all from special revenue funds in expenditures and 120.5 FTEs in FY25. This is a decrease of $28,742 below what the Kansas Legislature approved in 2024. The primary reason is due to less employer contributions for fringe benefits, although shrinkage is also a factor of almost 24,000. Even though they asked for a net decrease from their budget, it's partially offset by increased expenditures related to the purchase for equipment to regulate pari-mutuel racing machines, which is about 100,000. And non-recurring communication services to OITS for 40,800. The budget, the LBC concurred with the agency on this, as well as the Budget Committee for FY 2025. Do I have any questions?
Yes, you do. I have a question in regards to the historical horse racing machine. So that facility is going to be operating by the end of the current fiscal year?
That's what they're telling us.
Because I thought there was a delay in the construction of that facility.
But they have the funds to make it start. It won't be open until the fall.
It should, they originally thought it was going to be July, but now they believe it's going to be sometime in the fall.
So that's fiscal year 2026, not fiscal year 2025.
2025?
Yes, but they still need, that's correct. They still need the funds to pay for the equipment.
So it's going to be 26 or 25?
It'll most likely be open in 26.
I'm sorry, 2026.
So is there a need then for the $100,000 in fiscal year 2025? Because it says here that they're anticipating it to have regulatory activity in fiscal year 2025. But if it's not going to be operating until 2026, should we move this into 2026?
Well, the 100,000 was for buying new equipment and also testing it to have it ready to go in 2026. That's what research is telling me. Also
Well,
software.
I would still say that I don't think, this is my logic on this. And I think I've said this before in previous budgets. We have some anticipation on exactly when the final budget is going to be approved and then signed by the governor, and then we're only going to have maybe a month and a half, 2 months left in the current fiscal year. And I just don't see them utilizing these funds in the current fiscal year 2025. Even if that facility would open up in the fall of fiscal year 2026, they would still have they would have ample time between July 1 and when the facility would open in the fall for testing or whatever they need to do in regards to this equipment. So I would actually, I'm going to make a motion to delete the $100,000 all from special revenue funds in fiscal year 2025. And then we'll have a discussion on that in regards to fiscal year 2026. Is there a second? Second by Representative Estes. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close on my motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. For those of you that have served on this committee with me, actually, I was very enlightened by a discussion that was made in regards to Hollywood Casino in Kansas City, Kansas, that they were anticipating building a hotel finally.
Star? I thought it was
Or Hollywood
Hollywood.
in Kansas City, Kansas. Was there any discussion on that?
No, they were not talking about it until after the committee.
Yeah, that was reported a couple months ago that they were actually looking at building a hotel. And I think that's in regards to a lot of things that is percolating around the Speedway and the Legends area, and I just wondered if there was any discussion. Any other questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we know that the historical horse racing facility is supposed to be on track to open in the fall of 2025. How would we anticipate increase in revenues from that?
Chairperson.
Or are we?
Chairperson Wassinger.
We have an estimate of how much it would be.
How are we anticipating increasing?
Pure mutual.
I don't know what that is. No, I know, but I don't know what the amount is.
Getting revenue from that?
That's not the question. The question was how.
I know it's approximate, but a year ago, we added 13 FTEs.
There haven't been any estimates so far, but I'll get that to you so you can have an idea.
Vice Chair Williams, do you have any further follow-up? Any other questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? All right, seeing none, Chairperson Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, and 2026, the agency revised an estimate of 12.6 million, all from special revenue funds. Still the 120.5 positions of FTEs for FY 2026. This is an increase of 194,500 or 1.6 above the amount approved by the FY 2025 by the 2024 legislature. Although the agency requests include increasing regulatory equipment and non-recurring communication expenses, the primary reason for the increase is due to funding for sales, salaries and wages, $1,335.781. The agency anticipates the employees will continue to take on additional responsibilities related to the regulation of parimutuel racing machines. The LBC concurs with deleting the 135,781 not to increase the salaries and wages of employees. The Budget Committee concurred with LBC's recommendations for 2026. With that, I'll stand for questions.
All right, committee, any questions in regard to fiscal year 2026? Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know this is nickels and dimes, but I looked at the 2025 and saw a non-recurring communications fee of $40,000, and
they haven't
lo and behold, 2026, it's also non-recurring. How many times is this not going to recur?
Chairperson Wassinger.
Both years they have the same amount. Both years they have the same amount. That's supposed to be non-recurring. That means it doesn't happen again.
The agency's data cost associated with OITS services.
They probably shouldn't list it as non-recurring since
Probably
it's recurring costs. So we'll make sure that we mention that it shouldn't be put as non-recurring. Because it is there, it's part of the conversion that we had with cybersecurity. Is part of it was being taken care of by OITS, and they have to pay a fee to OITS.
Sure, I understand that. I just, again, it was the non-recurring part of a recurring charge that concerned me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a clarification, it indicates here that they're not going to fund the 135,781. Is that because we're going to isolate those salaries, or because they're just deleting that salary?
They're deleting the increase of those salaries. That was an increase. And that was LBC who decided not to.
Yeah, so there was a global motion when we had the
Right.
discussion with the Special Committee on Legislative Budget that any salary increases would be discussed when we had session.
had a hearing,
And so that's
so.
why it's showing as a deletion, because they were asking for salary increases.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, again, we have the 20,000 for the parimutuel racing equipment. And we gave them 1.4 million last year for this facility. And so I'm not sure what the 20,000 is for. It says for equipment, but I was assuming that the 1.4 million we gave them last year was for the equipment
Chairperson Wassinger.
also.
Processing and everything.
I think this is including the new historical horse racing and trying to get the equipment for that and understanding how to regulate it.
Well, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying, though. That was what the 1.4 million was for. I'm pretty sure it was for the.
I think they just underestimated what they needed to get it done, as far as I know.
Okay.
Representative Hoffman.
I don't know. I mean, 20,000, I guess, is not a lot, but they haven't even opened the place up yet. And it seems like that 1.4 would have been enough. So I'm gonna make a motion to cut that 20,000, and I guess we'll see where the chips fall.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Vice Chair Williams. Discussion on the motion. Representative Ballard.
Thank you. He just indicated, I think I'll just cut it. Would you tell me why are you thinking of cutting it?
Representative Hoffman.
It's page 5, number 3 in the budget analysis. It's 20,000 for the parimutuel gaming equipment. We gave him 1.4 million last year to get that all started, and they haven't opened yet. I can't understand why they need this 20,000. I would think that 1.4 would have been enough.
Representative Ballard.
Well, he gave me an explanation. I'm not sure I'm convinced, but thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, Representative Hoffman, you may close.
I close.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. Representative Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where in the budget summary could I find information about the Attracting Professional Sports Team Fund? Is it listed? And if so, could you tell me where that's
I
at?
believe that is in lottery, not in racing and gaming. But Dylan, do we have a balance on that fund?
We didn't run the balance on that in this budget summary, but I'll get you a copy.
Okay, we'll get a balance amount for that particular fund. Any further discussions in regards to fiscal year 2026? Seeing none, Chairperson Wassinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee recommendations for the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, were you going to delete?
Not after the motion that was made by Representative Hoffman.
Okay. I move the committee recommendations for the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission for the fiscal years 2025 and 2026. As amended, pardon me.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Turk. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, thank you, Chairperson Walsinger. We'll go ahead and move on to the next budget report outs, and that'll be by Chairman Bueller from the Social Services budget, and he has the Board of Nursing. Chairman Bueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Kansas Board of Nursing is a fee-funded agency with 3 licensing divisions, and we will be looking at FY 25, 26, and 27. There are really no changes. 25 is a straight line across the board. The agencies and the legislative budget committees are in agreement on the $4.1 million budget with 27 FTEs. Again, it's fee-funded, no SGF, and the budget committee concurs with the LBC's recommendation in FY 25. And with that, I stand for questions.
Committee, any questions in regard to fiscal year 2025? Seeing none, move on to 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in FY 26, there is a slight increase, about $100,000, and this is, the increase is due to increased contractual services expenditures associated with an increase in fees for the impaired provider contract and for disciplinary counsel. Those services are provided through the Office of the Attorney General. We did receive an education on that process when we heard this in committee, and it's with the slight increase, the FTEs stay the same. There's still no SGF for any reappropriation. So with that, I stand for questions.
All right, committee, any questions in regard to fiscal year 2026? Seeing none, you may move on to fiscal year 2027.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In FY 27, there's about $100,000 increase. Increase is $200,000 above the FY 25 approved amount. It's due to increased expenditures, again, for the impaired provider contract, disciplinary counsel, services, again, through the Office of the Attorney General, and contributions for the group health insurance, employee leave, and employee retirement. So with this, the LBC has concurred with the agency request for FY 27. The Budget Committee also concurs with the LBC's recommendation for FY 27. So with that, Mr. Chair, I stand for questions.
All right, committee, any questions? Representative Estes.
This is just kind of a general question. The last budget we looked at said we're going to save money on employee contributions, including capers, and and this one, it says we're getting more. Did I get confused somewhere?
Can you restate the question?
I'll withdraw it. I'll talk to you privately later. Just something
Okay.
I noticed.
Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so on these contractual services that have been steadily going up, since 2024, they've gone up 31%. So are we expecting that these contractual services to keep jumping up? And what is exactly the impaired provider contract? And trying to understand why there's such a significant jump.
So that
Chairman
actually-
Bueller.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know that there's any precise way to predict that because those funds are used when there's an investigation, someone may be diverting drugs. If you're talking about the impaired provider contract, so and if you go through the metrics, it depends on what happened, how many offenses occurred, and those kind of things. So I think we look at history to predict the future, and that is the best estimate that I have at this point.
Vice Chair Williams.
Oh, thank you very much. Just the last clarifying question, but what is the impaired provider contract?
Okay,
What does
so
it mean impaired in this case?
Chairman Bueller.
Thank you for the question. So the impaired provider contract, if you have a nurse who is diverting medicine for personal use or for whatever reason, there is an investigation, there's possible discipline, there's rehabilitation. So depending on what occurs, will really kind of create what the rehabilitation plan is for that individual. So that's what that contract is. It goes through and with the Office of the Attorney General. And again, it just, if you go into the metrics, I can't quote them off the top of my head, but there's so many instances, for example, of discipline per year, what it costs to resolve a case. It is dependent upon what happened, and you have to kind of aggregate that to predict the future, if that helps.
Vice Chair Williams.
Yeah, just last comment. It is interesting because it says that the estimates, consensus estimates say that it's the same number of investigations for 25 and 26, but we do have a big jump. Just something to know.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Sutton? Right, no question. Any other further questions in regards to 2027? Representative Estes.
Okay, so if you look at the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission budget summary, page 4, under employee benefits, it says that there's a decrease due to reduction in employer contributions to fringe benefits such as group health insurance and capers. And then when you look at page 4 of this, you see there's an increase due to several things. One of is the contributions for group health insurance, employee leave, and retirement. So that leads me to say, it looks in one side we have it decreasing, in another place we have it increasing, and that's what I was having difficulty reconciling in my mind.
Well, when looking at racing and gaming in 25, the agency has deleted 139,000 from special revenue funds for lower estimated expenditures. And then you look on 2026 and they're adding 135,000 for increased salary and wage expenditures.
All right,
So it looks
it's
like
the
there's-
year you're looking at that makes the difference. That helps, thank you.
I think it's an adjustment from year to year. And that would be, I think, somewhat congruent with the department or the Board of Nursing.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion in regards to fiscal year 2027? All right, seeing none, Chairman Bueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Social Services Budget Committee recommendations for the Board of Nursing for budget for fiscal years 2025, 2026, and 2027.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Ballard. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you, Chairman Bueller. We'll go ahead and move on to the budget report out from the Transportation and Public Safety budget. And I will now turn it over to Chairman Anderson, and I believe you're starting with the Abstractors Board of Examiners. Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, we'll start with FY 2025 with the Abstractors Board of Examiners. The agency requests a revised estimate of $25,723, all from the Abstractors Board of Examiners fee fund and expenditures in FY 25. This is no change from the amount approved by the 24 legislature. The LBC concurs with the agency's revised estimate in 25. The Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions on 25.
Committee, are there any questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? Representative Wassinger.
This has nothing to do with the budget, but I'm trying to figure out why the Abstractors Board of Examiners is under transportation. My husband's an abstractor, my son is an abstractor, and I'm not sure why transportation is going over there, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and there'll be some times where one will question what particular budget committee that it falls under. I mean, some could question for Chairperson Mosier's why she has the Department of Commerce. And that falls under Ag and Natural Resources Budget Committee. In some cases, it's basically sharing the workload. I mean, we could have added it to yours, but
No.
you already have
No,
27 budgets to
Thank
go
you,
through.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. That answered that question pretty quickly. Any other questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? All right, seeing none, Chairman Anderson, you may move on to 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to FY 26, the agency requests a revised estimate of $25,723, all from the Abstractors Board of Examiners fee fund. And expenditures for FY 26 is no change from the amount approved by the 24 legislature. The LBC concurs with the agency, and FY 26, the Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions on 26.
All right, committee, are there any questions? Seeing none, Chairman Anderson, move on to 2027.
2027, the agency submits a revised estimate of $25,733, all from the Abstractors Board of Examiners Fee Fund. This is an increase of $10 above the amount approved by the 24 legislature. This increase is primarily attributable to computer programming and other supplies and materials. This increase is offset by a decrease in other professional fees for FY27. The LBC concurs with the agency's request for 27. The Budget Committee concurs with the LBC's recommendation. And Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions on 27.
All right, committee, are there any questions in regard to fiscal year 2027? Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not going to spend a great deal of time on this, but 24 to 25 really is where the jump takes place, but it carries over into 27. There's a $4,000 bump, or $4,500, translates to about 18%. What, any explanation? I know it's a nickel, but nonetheless, any explanation for that?
That you're going to focus on the increase of $10 in fiscal year 2027.
Yeah, well, I'm always curious as to how those get calculated and projected, but this one, yeah, it's 18%. That's more than our salary increase. Just curious.
Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the bump from 24 to 25 is primarily website, OITS upgrade, and then some postage.
Representative Sutton.
Okay, is that, so I would assume then that that's a recurring fee?
Chairman Anderson.
That will remain in the budget, correct?
Excuse, one moment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The increase, obviously in postage, I'm not concerned with, but the OITS upgrade charge, that was some sort of a contract, or was that one, or not one-time fees associated with an improvement?
Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it was equipment upgrades by OATS, so it will be reoccurring.
So some sort of a contract. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion on fiscal year 2027? Seeing none, Chairman Anderson, I entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee recommendations for the Abstractors Board of Examiners budget for fiscal years 25, 26, and 27.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Hoy. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will move to the Board of Technical Professions, starting with FY 2025. The agency requests a revised estimate of $853,390, all from the Technical Professions Fee Fund, and expenditures and 5 FTE positions in FY 25. The revised estimate is equivalent to the amount approved by the 24 legislature. The agency has not submitted any supplemental requests, nor is there any SGF reappropriation. The LBC concurred with the agency's revised estimate in 25, and the Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions on 25.
All right, committee, any questions in regard to fiscal year 2025? Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've done this one before, and bids is kind of a can of worms.
This isn't bids.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were already on to bids. My bad.
Yeah, he moved to the Board of Technical Professions.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, then.
Hold your comments till the next budget.
I'll get back on the right page. Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion in regards to fiscal year 2025 for the Board of Technical Professions? All right, seeing none, Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to FY 26, the agency requests a revised estimate of $890,319, all from the Technical Professions Fee Fund, and expenditures and 5 FTE positions for 26. The request is $36,929 above the 25 approved amount, and primarily attributable to the hiring of a social media consultant, which was $30,000. The agency has not submitted any enhancement requests on top of that. The LBC concurs with the agency request for 26. The Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation for 26 with one adjustment. We deleted the $30,000 for the social media consultant for 26. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Chairman Anderson. Any questions? Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this $30,000 we're adding for the social media consultant, why do the Board of technical professions feel like they need a social media professional because that is increasing fees for the long term. And, you know, it's a bunch of architects and engineers. I don't think they're probably on social media.
Well, and I would probably, before you state the reason, Chairman Anderson, I mean, your committee did delete the 30,000.
This is no changes.
But on the actual budget committee report, it says delete 30,000 all from the technical professions fee fund.
Great job. Thank you.
But I would ask, what would they reach out in social media for this particular agency?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So that was kind of the reason why we removed it. That was a question in committee, and there wasn't a great justification for it, and so that's why it was removed.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion in regards to fiscal year 2026? Seeing none, you may move on to fiscal year 2027.
Moving on to FY27, the agency requests a revised estimate of $906,120, all from the Technical Professions Fee Fund, and expenditures in 5 FTE positions for FY2027. The request is $52,730 above the 25 approved amount, and primarily attributable to the hiring of a social media consultant at $31,000 and licensing services at $16,952. The agency did not submit any other enhancement requests. The LBC concurred with the agency's request for 27. The Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation for 27 with the following adjustment. Once again, we deleted the $31,000 for the social media consulting services fee for 27. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
All right, committee, are there any questions in regard to fiscal year 2027? All right, seeing none, Chairman Anderson, I entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee recommendations for the Board of Technical Professions budgets for fiscal years 25, 26, and 27.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Hoy. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Chairman Anderson. Now Representative Sutton's budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to the Board of Indigent Defense Services, starting with fiscal year 2025. The agency requests a revised estimate of $69.8 million, including $68.9 million SGF in expenditures and 289.2 FTE positions for 25. This is an increase of $115,469 above the approved amount by the 24 legislature. The increase is due entirely to the balance forward of the Indigent Defense Services Fund and the In-Service Education Workshop Fee Fund. The LBC concurs with the agency's revised estimate in FY25 with the following adjustment. The LBC deleted the $7 million reappropriation for operating expenditures in FY25. The Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation in 2025. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
All right, committee, any questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? Representative Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that I'm on the right budget, that's pretty handy. Having done this one and kind of climbed under the hood pretty in-depthly in the past on this one, one of the things to keep in mind on bids is that no matter what we do to their budget, they're going to be spending the money. All right. The Constitution requires the assignment of counsel to people who can't afford it, and a speedy trial. So both of those things kind of tie our hands just a little bit as far as what we can do with that budget. They either need to have attorneys on staff, which would be, in my opinion, the ideal, or they need to be able to contract for them if they're not on staff. Either way, that's an outlay of money. And so we kind of hammered this one around a little bit. I talked to the agency when I listened to the Budget Committee, and some people need a hobby, I know. But I think rather than deleting all $7 million, if we cut the lapse down to $3 million, they would be able to get by with that amount as far as their projected spendings are concerned, without having to necessarily, go into debt or have some sort of a GBA in order to fund the constitutionally mandated job that they have.
So Representative Sutton, is that a motion to delete 3 million of the reappropriation lapse?
To reduce the lapse to $3 million. So that they, rather than $7 million rolled over, it's $3 million rolled over. So deleting 3.7 or 3.9, whatever that was.
Okay.
Yes, that is a motion. Thank you, sir.
Committee, you've heard the motion seconded by Representative Hoy. Discussion on the motion, Representative Helgerson.
If we look at the governor says delete 1.5 million. Can someone give me some idea why 3, why 1.5?
I'll probably have that answered by Chairman Anderson, if there was any discussion in committee in regards to the governor's recommendation. Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, we did discuss that in committee. We didn't get a great answer on why they went to pretty much 5.5 million. And maybe Chairman Sutton has a good reason on why he went to 3, but.
Representative Sutton.
The closest thing I can answer on that is these were based on the agency projections of what trials were coming up and what they were going to have to spend. That some of it could be lapsed and they could get by with it okay, or could be removed from being carried over and they'd get by okay, but the whole thing was a little bit of a stretch.
Well, in discussions that I had with the individuals from bids, I think the entire reappropriation of a little over 7.8 million would be difficult, to say the least. Again, there was no real justification, Representative Helgerson, in regards to the logic behind what the governor did in regards to the 1.5 million. I contend to agree with the motion made by Representative Sutton in regards to the 3. Keep in mind, this is not finite until we actually start working on the budget on the week of February 10th. So this is going to be basically, I want to say a placeholder in regards to the budget, but obviously we can have a discussion on that when we are finalizing the budget during that time. Representative Helgerson?
With that discussion and understanding, I'd hope that bids or the governor's office will provide us the detail as to specifically whether or not it's the 3 or 1.7 or whatever, and let's hold until then.
Any further discussion on the motion? Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. And I don't disagree with Representative Sutton's motion. I just will say we need to be careful. We're still going from 56.1 million in FY24 to, if we went with the LBC's motion, to 62.7. So they're still getting a $6.6 million bump. Like I said, we need to be cautious. We do have a constitutional obligation, but we were not in a constitutional crisis this year, and they're getting 6.6 million more, even if we lapse the entire reappropriation. So they have 31 vacant positions being fully funded. 18 are supposed to be funded by September, but that's if everything goes right. So just a little more information before we vote.
Well, and I would say in regards to the reappropriation process, and this is why we kind of focused on this in regards to House Bill 2007, is we have reoccurring reappropriations year after year after year. And I'm not just focusing just solely on bids. I'm talking about all the 98 agencies and departments that may be subject to a reappropriation that happens on an annual basis. And I think that as the stewards of the taxpayers' money, we need to make sure that if we continually have these reappropriations, and some are justified. I will say some of the reappropriations are justified. Like if you look at all the reappropriations and what was the total amount this year, Dylan, $619 million in reappropriations. Probably one of the highest reappropriations we've had in ever. I mean, that's a pretty large amount. But when we were going through and looking at some of those reappropriations, some of those was a timing issue. If you had a capital improvement project and it was a timing issue from one fiscal year to the next, well, that's justified. The other was paying off some of the bonds that we approved last year in the budget. And so they actually weren't called until a particular time in the next fiscal year. So those were justified. So what we focused on was the reappropriations that was going in and basically could be considered baked into the next state general fund ask. And that's why we pulled those out and looked at, okay, is this justified? And I think this is one of the first times that we've looked at budgets where we've actually analyzed the reappropriations. And then, ironically enough, when we made that motion in the Special Committee on Legislative Budget, the governor included that in her budget as well, which some said that we laid our cards on the table, and then the governor made the same actions. But that's what we need to do here. And so, I mean, that's why I said I welcome the motion that's been made by Representative Sutton. We've looked at the reappropriations. Obviously, there could be possibly more discussion, as you know, Chairman Anderson pointed out, the differences between 24 and 25 and the increases. And when we actually make the decision on the budget, when we have that on the week of February the 10th, maybe we'll have more information and we can move forward on that. So, Representative Hoy.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to add, just at looking at this reappropriation, that I do feel very comfortable that it is something that will be expensed in the current fiscal year. These are contractual services that attorneys are billing their hours, and those bills will come due. So I do support the motion, and I believe it is necessary to continue offering those constitutional services. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Carpenter. Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not in our copies that we have here, but I want to know about the administration costs, because if we're talking about reappropriating either $3 million or $7 million, or in this case, $3 million, how much, it looks to me that they've had a large increase in administration. So I have no problem with the salary and wage increases for making sure that our public defenders are paid better and that but it seems like the administration has just skyrocketed.
Chairman Anderson, do you have an answer on that?
Thank you, Chairman. I think a lot of that was salaries and wages and then assigned counsel as well.
Vice Chair Williams.
Okay, I'm looking at the governor's budget on that, and they have the administration in a separate line item from the assigned counsel and the legal services. So it looks like it went from $3 million in 2024 administration to $9 million in 2025. Then it drops back down to $6 million in, let's see, that's the base budget. So, I mean, that's 118 or 181% increase. And then it comes back down a little bit, but it's still double of what it was in 2024. And they're not combining the assigned counsel. It's not the salary and wages.
Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Chairman. So we believe that's part of the reappropriation that then on page 3, they show where they would put that, what looks like about just under 7 million. And they lay out where they would do this, where they would spend it.
Vice Chair Williams.
Okay, so that 13% of their budget in 2025 base budget is including some reappropriations, and it's not just administrative costs. I just don't know why they would put it there.
Chairman Anderson.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from the analyst is that's just the way the accounting works with this with this agency. It goes into administration and then they funnel it to these other expert fees and capital defense and assigned counsel.
Vice Chair Williams.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just difficult to follow. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Representative Sutton, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I with respect to the Vice Chair's questioning, I think it's the general operating expenditures until the new employees are hired, that money is going to sit in what's going to look like administration right now. It'll eventually go to either, again, this is with bids, either going to go to salaries and wages of attorneys or contractual obligations for assigned counsel. So that money gets divvied up. And that's the thing with bids. The money's going to get spent. There's far more demand than we have supply. So either we do it with in-house attorneys if we can hire them, which it looks like they're having plans to do that later in the year or in the process. It's kind of a long hiring process to get attorneys on board. But either that or it's going to be contracted out. One way or another, that money's getting spent. And I just feel like cutting off our nose to spite our face. We're going to pay it eventually anyway. So with that, I move my motion.
All right,
Thank you, Mr.
committee,
Chair.
you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're now back on the budget for fiscal year 2025. Any questions in regards to fiscal year 2025? Seeing none, Chairman Anderson, you may move on to fiscal year 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to FY 2026, the agency requests $73.1 million, including $72.3 million SGF and 318.2 FTE positions in FY 26. This is an increase of $11.2 million above the FY 25 amount approved by the 24 legislature, and an increase of 29 FTE positions. The adjustment is almost entirely related to the agency's enhancement request, the following two items: $6.7 million SGF to adjust the compensation of attorneys and other staff to reach better pay parity with prosecuting offices, and $4.3 million SGF and 29 FTE positions to increase the number of attorney and non-attorney staff to help public defense attorneys meet ethical caseload requirements. The LBC concurs with the agency's revised estimate for FY 26 with the following adjustments. They deleted the $6.7 million SGF for the public defense attorneys pay parity, and deleted the $4.3 million SGF and 29 FTE positions to not increase the number of attorney staff. The Budget Committee concurred with the LBC's recommendation for FY 26. Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions on 26.
All right, committee, any questions in regard to fiscal year 2026? Seeing none, Chairman Anderson, I would entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee recommendations for the bids budget for fiscal years 25 and 26 as amended.
All right, committee, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Hoy. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion passes. All right, committee, that is all the work that we have for today. We're going to be continuing with budget report outs for the entire week. As you'll see, we are going to be meeting on Friday of this week so we can make sure that we can get all the budgets reported out, and we can then start the final budget discussion, as I mentioned before, in some of the discussions we had today with the budget on February 10th or there around that time frame, because our goal is to have the budget passed out of this committee by February 13th and then on to the House floor, and then depending on whatever they decide on what day that's going to be ran. Dylan, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you will watch your emails, you will receive an email today that will have the link to all of the budget summaries that are available on our website. So for the budgets that are coming up, if you have any questions about them, you will have a link to be able to download those and grab those.
All right, thank you, Dylan. If there is nothing else for today, we are adjourned until tomorrow at 9 a.m.